My beloved child, something has quietly shifted, and if you hurry past this moment, you may never recognize why it matters. Do not mistake every ending for a loss. Some endings arrive as protection long before they reveal themselves as blessings. Imagine walking through a dense forest where one familiar path suddenly becomes blocked. At first, it feels frustrating, almost unfair. Yet what if that closed path was never meant to punish you? What if it was guiding you away from a destination that could never become the future you were meant to build? Stay a little longer. The most extraordinary chapters often begin when an unexpected door closes. There are moments in life when certain people naturally drift away, not because they have no value, but because their role in your story has already been fulfilled. What seems confusing today may become the very reason you smile tomorrow. Before you decide this message is about someone else, ask yourself one quiet question. What if this season is preparing room for something your present circumstances cannot yet reveal? Think about an artist creating a masterpiece. Every brushstroke serves a purpose, yet not every color remains on the final canvas. Some shades are painted over so the greater picture can emerge with clarity and beauty. Life often unfolds with the same quiet wisdom. There are conversations that end unexpectedly, friendships that slowly become distant, and opportunities that quietly disappear without explanation. In the moment, they can feel like unfinished stories. But what if they were simply making space for a stronger chapter? Wait until the final moment before deciding what this title truly means. The greatest truth is not about someone leaving. It is about why that departure becomes one of the most meaningful turning points in the entire journey. Sometimes the heart cannot embrace what is ahead while it is still holding tightly to what no longer belongs in its next chapter. Before this chapter closes, picture the first light of dawn breaking across a silent landscape. The darkness does not disappear all at once. It gives way gradually until the entire horizon is transformed. That is how meaningful change often enters a life. Quietly, patiently, purposefully. You may not yet see the complete picture, but pieces are already moving into place. Stay with this story a little longer, because the next chapter will uncover why certain connections fade at exactly the moment new possibilities begin to appear, and why what first feels like an unexpected goodbye may ultimately become the beginning of one of the greatest blessings you never saw coming. A quiet truth is beginning to reveal itself, but it can only be understood by those willing to look beyond the surface. Imagine a gardener carefully trimming healthy branches from a flourishing tree. To someone passing by, it may seem unnecessary, even harsh. Yet the gardener sees what others cannot. By removing what no longer serves the tree, new strength, fresh growth, and greater beauty become possible. Life often unfolds with the same quiet wisdom. Stay a little longer. You may be standing at the edge of a realization that changes the way you see every unexpected goodbye. What if some people leave your path not because your story is falling apart, but because it is finally coming together? The answers you have been searching for may have been hidden inside the changes you once questioned the most. Consider another picture. A traveler carries a heavy backpack filled with things collected over many years. At first, every item seems important, so nothing is left behind. But as the journey continues, the weight becomes exhausting. Only after setting down what is no longer needed does the traveler discover how much farther they can go. Sometimes life asks us to release what has quietly been slowing us down. Not because those people or experiences had no meaning, but because their purpose has already been fulfilled. Before you decide that every separation is a setback, ask yourself one question. What if every chapter cannot be written with the same characters? Some people teach courage. Others teach patience. Some reveal your strengths. Others help you recognize the direction you truly want to follow. Every encounter leaves a lesson, but not every lesson is meant to remain forever. Now the story begins moving toward an even deeper understanding. The title promised that someone is being removed from your life, but the greatest mystery has not yet been uncovered. Why now? Why after everything that has already happened? The answer reaches beyond coincidence. It touches timing, purpose, and a future that is quietly taking shape even when it cannot yet be seen. Stay until the end. The next chapter will reveal why certain departures happen at the precise moment new opportunities begin drawing closer, and why what once felt like an unexpected loss may soon be understood as one of the most meaningful acts of preparation in your entire journey. The atmosphere has changed, even if nothing around you appears different yet. Imagine standing beside the shoreline as the tide slowly moves away. At first, it seems as though the water is disappearing without reason. But as it retreats, treasures hidden beneath the surface begin to appear: smooth stones, rare shells, and paths that could never have been seen while the water covered them. Life has a way of creating space before revealing what that space was meant to hold. Stay with this journey a little longer. What feels like distance today may actually be making room for greater clarity tomorrow. The question is no longer, why is this happening? The deeper question is, what is this change preparing me to see? There is another truth that quietly unfolds with time. Not every connection is meant to last forever, and that does not erase the value it once had. Think of a teacher who spends an entire season helping a student grow. One day the lessons are complete, and the student moves forward. The teacher's purpose has not failed, it has been fulfilled. Some relationships, conversations, and seasons of life serve in exactly the same way. They shape your perspective, strengthen your character, and prepare you for chapters that have not yet arrived. What if someone leaving your story is not the closing of your future, but the completion of an important lesson? Before you rush to judge the ending, remember that the most meaningful journeys are often understood only after looking back from a wiser place. You will understand everything at the end, because every chapter has been leading toward one greater truth. Now every clue is beginning to point in the same direction. The changes you have questioned, the moments that seemed uncertain, and the quiet transitions you never expected are slowly forming one complete picture. Yet one final layer remains hidden. It is the reason this message found you today instead of another day. Hold on to that thought for just a little longer. The next chapter will uncover why some doors close with remarkable precision, why certain paths quietly fade from view, and why what first feels like an unexpected ending may ultimately become the beginning of the most meaningful chapter you have yet to experience. Another layer is about to unfold, and this is where the story begins to change in a way few people expect. Imagine an architect carefully removing temporary scaffolding from a magnificent building. During construction, those supports were essential. Without them, the structure could never have taken shape. But once the foundation is strong, the scaffolding must be removed so the true beauty of the building can finally be seen. Life often follows that same quiet pattern. Some people enter your journey to help you learn, encourage you, or redirect your path for a season. Their presence has purpose, but their purpose is not always permanent. Stay a little longer. What if the change you are experiencing is not taking something valuable away from you, but revealing the strength that has been quietly growing within you all along? Before you decide this chapter is about loss, consider the possibility that it is actually about becoming ready for something your current season could not yet hold. Now think about a river making its way through a valley. Whenever it encounters a massive rock, it does not stop flowing forever. Instead, it gently changes direction until a new path appears. Years later, that new path becomes the river's greatest strength, bringing life to places that would otherwise have remained untouched. What if every unexpected separation has been guiding you in exactly the same way? The moments that seemed confusing may have been protecting you from roads that no longer belong to your future. The conversations that quietly faded may have been creating room for new voices, fresh opportunities, and deeper peace. Wait until the final moment before deciding what this message truly means, because the greatest revelation is not about who is leaving. It is about what is preparing to enter once the space has been made. The journey has now reached a remarkable point. The scattered clues are beginning to fit together, yet one essential truth remains hidden just beyond the next chapter. Why does every meaningful change seem to happen at the exact moment it feels least expected? Why do some endings quietly become the doorway to entirely new beginnings? Hold those questions close. The next chapter will reveal why perfect timing often looks mysterious until the entire story has unfolded, and why this unexpected change may become one of the most meaningful turning points in your life. The story is now approaching the place where every unanswered question begins leaning toward a single truth. Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of marble. To everyone else, it looks like an ordinary stone, but the sculptor already sees the masterpiece hidden inside. With each careful strike, pieces fall away, not because they are worthless, but because they are not part of the final vision. Life often shapes us in exactly the same way. Some chapters end, some people quietly drift away, and some plans unexpectedly change. In the moment, it is difficult to understand why. Yet months or even years later, those very moments often become the reason a stronger, wiser version of yourself could finally emerge. Stay a little longer. The greatest revelation is closer than it has ever been. There is something remarkable about the way purpose reveals itself. It rarely arrives all at once. Instead, it appears one lesson at a time until suddenly everything begins making sense. Think about an old key that has been carried for years without anyone knowing which door it opens. Then one ordinary day, it fits perfectly into a lock that seemed impossible to open. The key was never useless. Its purpose simply had not been revealed yet. What if the same is true for the changes in your life? What if every goodbye has quietly been unlocking a future that could never have been reached while you remained attached to yesterday? Before you move ahead, ask yourself one quiet question. If every chapter has been preparing you for something greater, could the changes you feared actually be the very reason your future becomes brighter? Hold that thought, because the answer is now closer than ever before. Now the journey stands on the edge of its final revelations. Every clue, every transition, every unexpected ending, and every lesson has been moving toward one complete picture. Yet one final layer still remains. It is the truth that explains why this message reached you at this exact moment and why every chapter had to unfold in the order it did. Stay until the very end. The next chapter will connect every piece into one unforgettable conclusion, revealing why what first appeared to be an unexpected loss may ultimately become the greatest act of preparation for a future filled with peace, clarity, and purpose. The journey has almost reached its destination, but there is one final bridge that must be crossed before everything becomes clear. Imagine standing in a room filled with mirrors. At first, every reflection seems different, each one showing only a small part of the whole. Then someone opens a window, and natural light fills the room. Suddenly, every reflection begins pointing to the same image. That is where this story now stands. Stay a little longer. The moments that once felt unrelated are now revealing a single purpose. Every unexpected goodbye, every delayed answer, and every quiet season has been leading toward an understanding that could only appear after enough time had passed. What once felt like loss now begins to look like preparation. What once felt like confusion now begins to reveal quiet direction. There is one thought that deserves to stay with you long after this chapter ends. Imagine carrying a map that only reveals the next step instead of the entire journey. At first, that may seem frustrating. But if every destination were shown from the beginning, there would be no room for growth, courage, or discovery. Life often unfolds one step at a time for exactly that reason. The people who leave, the opportunities that change, and the chapters that quietly close are not always signs that something has gone wrong. Sometimes they are gentle reminders that your future cannot be built by holding tightly to every part of your past. A meaningful tomorrow often begins with the courage to release what has already fulfilled its purpose. You might miss the turning point if you stop here, because the final chapter holds the answer to why every change happened in the precise order it did. Now only one page remains. The title promised that someone is being removed from your life, but the deepest truth has never been about losing a person. It has always been about making room for a future that required a different version of you. The final chapter will reveal why every lesson, every transition, every unexpected ending, and every quiet moment has been preparing you for something far greater than you imagined at the beginning of this journey. Stay until the very end. The last revelation is ready to connect every piece into one complete story, and when it does, the reason behind every chapter will finally become clear. The final truth is not that someone simply left your life. The final truth is that every meaningful journey requires space for its next chapter to begin. Throughout this story, you may have been looking for one dramatic reason that explains every change. Instead, the answer has been quietly growing through every lesson. The title spoke of someone being removed from your life, but the deeper message has always been about preparation rather than punishment. Some people enter your story to encourage you. Some help you discover strengths you never knew you possessed. Others teach lessons that reshape the way you see yourself and the future. Their value is not measured by how long they remain, but by how deeply they help you grow. When one chapter reaches its natural conclusion, it does not erase its importance. It simply makes room for the next chapter to begin with greater wisdom, greater peace, and a clearer sense of purpose. Now look back at every part of this journey from a new perspective. The unexpected changes that once seemed confusing were quietly creating space for new possibilities. The unanswered questions were inviting you to develop patience instead of rushing toward conclusions. The moments of uncertainty were strengthening qualities that comfort and certainty could never have produced. Imagine finishing a beautiful book and realizing that every early chapter contained small clues pointing toward the ending. Nothing was random. Every page had a purpose. Life often unfolds with that same quiet design. The opportunities that truly belong in your future will never require you to become trapped in yesterday. They invite you to carry forward the wisdom you have gained while remaining open to what is still ahead. Sometimes the greatest blessing is not receiving everything you wanted. It is discovering that what awaited you required the person you have now become. As this story reaches its final page, carry one thought with you wherever your journey continues. Never fear the seasons that ask you to let go, because they often prepare the ground for seasons of remarkable growth. Continue choosing kindness even when life changes unexpectedly. Continue choosing gratitude for every lesson that has shaped your character. Continue moving forward with hope, knowing that every meaningful experience can become part of a stronger future. If these words brought clarity or encouragement, consider sharing this story with someone who may also need this reminder today. And if you enjoy thoughtful journeys like this, remember to subscribe so we can continue exploring stories of growth, purpose, and hope together. One day, you may look back and realize that the most astonishing reason behind every ending was not what was taken away. It was the extraordinary future that quietly became possible because you were willing to keep walking forward.